Guys, welcome to the Pure Progress Lifestyle, where the only thing that matters is progress. Today I'm joined by Nico Lagan. I say that right, Lagan?
Lagging, close enough. Close enough.
Nico, you're in Times Square. You're an entrepreneur. You're a men's coach, and you have your own podcast, the Nico Lagan, or
Yeah, man.
Lagan Show, and you're also an author.
Yeah.
I wanted to have you on the show today because you're a big believer in, teaching men to be men again. And I do feel like that is so lost in today's generation, or not just generation, but it's been this thing that's just been like being dug deeper and deeper and deeper over the years. And so many men just don't know where to go anymore.
100%. This is how it started for me too. My dad wasn't there when I was young. Like, my dad left, I was 14 years old, and I was left to my own demise. Basically, I was raised by a single mother. And when you have a 14-year-old boy that doesn't know where to look for a man influence, because deep down we all do. It is within every single man out there to want to learn how to become a man. And if we do not have that masculine figure in our life, guess what? We're going to start looking for it. But what the hell did I know when I was 14 years old? How the hell did I know what a good man was when I was 14 years old, right?
Right.
So for more than 6 or 7 years, that's the trail I was on. I became a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I sold drugs. I ended up quitting school. I think I was 15 years old when I dropped out of school. And, this is what men go through today. If you look, it's between 30 and 40% of young men or boys are raised by single mother with no father figure. And I'm not saying biological father, I'm just saying father figure as a whole.
Right.
So this is why I do it. Just because I don't want the boys I don't want me from 25, 26, 27 years ago if I can avoid that, if I can help guys not be on that path that I was on, I'll die happy.
Why do you think that is?
It's multifaceted, but at the end of the day, I've pondered this question a lot over the past year, and I can tell you that the only real problem, and we're not talking symptoms, we're really talking about the root problem, is a lack of responsibility. There's no accountability anymore. If you look at every single problem out there, name it, and it all comes down to the fact that somebody somewhere did not do their job, did not do what they were supposed to do, and they played the victim role, or they blamed other people for their problems. It's always what it comes down to. And if it comes to men, especially boys and young men, it comes down to a lack of father figure. And the system, I bet you're from the US, considering the cap that you're wearing right now. So if you look at the family law system that we have in Canada, where I'm from, we have the same, and it is heavily biased towards women. 70 to 90% of divorces are initiated by women, and in 90% of the case, women get the children. 90% of the case. And it's not because there's no good men out there, there's no good fathers, or there's no fathers that want to take their roles. Is because there's an extremely biased system that is in place that prevents men from being in the life of their children. And
there is, for sure.
And you know what? I might sound like a conspiracy theorist here to some people out there, but to me, there's a vast movement to feminize men. You look at what's going on in society today, where men are women, women are men, however they feel like.
Right.
We see that more and more men are being called toxic. Men that are traditionally manly, that believe that there is a difference between a man and a woman, are being shamed, are being vilified, they're being called toxic. And it's astonishing, because if you look at it, it starts at the family, where we're not taking responsibility for our actions. We're not marrying partners that we have shared values with. Because this, at the end of the day, is what you and I can do. Choose a partner that you're going to have kids with, that you shared values with. Deep-rooted values. Don't make the same mistake I made when I got married and choose a woman based on her look. Don't use your dick in order to actually find a partner. Find somebody that their values, how they see raising a family, how they see educating kids, how they see the world as a whole aligns with your values. And this is where it starts. This is where you and I can do something as just regular guys.
Right. I'd
But
have to agree with that, because when when you're that age, the one thing that is on constantly on your mind is just, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this? Like, there's
100%.
boners everywhere.
Mhm.
Like, that's all that's on your mind. It's just women, 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 women. And one of the big things that men can teach other men is, dude, there's not, that energy is good, but that energy's got to be used for something else. Because if you
Oh,
use that
yes.
to what's on your mind, it's going to ruin you.
Mhm.
It's
If it's like your emotions, it's the same thing as your emotions. If you let your emotions control you as a man, you're doomed. You will
Mhm.
never accomplish anything. And not only will you not accomplish anything, look at what's going on right now. This is another symptom of not having good men in society right now. Young boys that are now eternal teenagers that call themselves men, but literally never grew up, still have no control over their emotions. So how do you expect them to control their sexual urges? They
Right.
have no idea what it means to use your sexual energy. And as a man, which is your strongest energy that you possess, that your body produces, is your will to reproduce. If you are not, if you are letting that control you and you're masturbating into oblivion, guess what? All that energy is being wasted. Not only are you being hooked on dopamine by how pornography works, but you're wasting your more powerful energy instead, as you said, to reinvest or channel it into something that makes sense, like building yourself to be successful.
Mm. It's funny, if you go back to sports, like one of the I don't know if you're a big baseball person, but one of the biggest things with baseball is, if you're on a hot streak, hitting streak,
Mhm,
pitching streak, never ever seduce a woman.
mhm.
You gotta, and it was like, people didn't know why. Like, it weakens, man. It's like, it's not that it weakens you, it's your energy.
Mhm.
Like, if you
Yep.
are pitching, if you've thrown 13 games where you've won all of them, and it's because you haven't had sex with a woman, it's because you haven't had sex with a woman.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very simple.
100%. And it was Napoleon Hill that first started talking about this and Think and Grow Rich,
Mhm.
how sexual energy is the most powerful energy a man can produce, and he should never waste it on a woman. As bad as this sounds, if you want to be successful at whatever you want, it can be sport, it can be business, it can be just being a good human being, just be a good man. If you want to learn how to temper yourself, learn to control your sexual energy and don't let it control you, and re-channel that energy in something that really matters. It is not easy. It is extremely hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that a man can do.
Yeah.
But if you look at most, if not all, extremely successful people, they had control over that. They
Mm.
had control. It is something that they understood, that not only sex with women, but masturbation as a whole, because at least sex with women, you need to have that in a partner. Like if you have a relationship with your significant other, you need to be able to have sex with her.
Right.
You need to be able to share that tender moment with her, because women want that.
Right.
But wasting your most powerful energy into a Kleenex is not something that our boys should be taught. It's something that, on the contrary, they should be learn how to control it. Because if if you take it even further, I'm a very spiritual person, and there's um there's someone that was talking about how every single woman that you sleep with
Mhm.
will leave an imprint on you of all the men they've ever slept with. All of that stuff they carry with you. So if you believe in karma, if you believe that the energy you put out there is out there, and if you look at the first law of thermodynamics, energy is never destroyed, it is simply redistributed. So
Right.
if you're putting bad sexual energy out there, it leaves an imprint on those people. By you sleeping with those people, they're imprinting you with that sexual energy that maybe comes from them, maybe comes from all the partners that they've been sleeping with. So on
Mm.
every single angle that you look, any side of the coin that you look at when it comes to sexual energy from a man, it should always be used in a very logical way, in a way that you understand that it is conscious. Do not let your urges control you, but
Mm.
control your urges. And by you controlling your urges, you're going to develop something that most men can only dream of, and it's temperance. If you're capable of if you're capable of controlling your sexual urges, you can control your emotions like this afterwards. It's going to be easy for you to be more stoic.
Mm. So what's how did you get into this? Like what is something that you finally were like, dude, I gotta do something here. Something's got to change when you were growing up.
You know, it's when I was 20 years old, I decided I gotta. I lived by myself for years. I left my mother's. I think I was 17. I dropped out of school. I was 15. Started selling drugs. Starting doing all the stupid shit that I did back then. And then by 17, I was gone. I was living by myself. And by 20, my mom gave me a call. I remember my mother calling me, and she's like, she only asked me a very simple question: "Are you happy?"
Hmm.
I was in a situation where I was getting evicted from my apartment. I had been offered a very good job down the wrong path. Like, you know, it was literally like you see in movies or you read in books where there's two paths. You're literally at those two paths and you're like, okay, I have an opportunity to go down the road I'm already going down to make a shit ton more money than you're doing right now, but you're digging your own grave at this point. You are going down a path you should not be going to.
Right.
So, or the other one, my mother called and she's like, "Are you happy with your life? If you're not, I can give you a roof over your head. I can't pay. I can't. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to go back to school. You're going to have to do something, but at least I can give you an opportunity to not have to worry about a roof over your head."
Mm.
And this is when it happens. I was 20 years old. That was 21 years ago. And I can tell you that every 10 years, I always step a major point in my life, every 10 years. So at 20, I decided to go back to school, finish my high school, I got a small college degree. Like, I'm not an educated person on paper, but I decided to switch my life around, stop smoking, stop doing drugs. I wasn't even drinking anymore. I started lifting weights. I started doing martial arts. So
Mm.
at 20, I did a 180. I removed everybody in my life. Everybody. I did not keep anybody from those friends in my life. And I just decided to concentrate on me and doing something better.
Mm. So would you say this journey down to self-education led you to a road like I got an opportunity here to really start changing people's lives for the
Yeah.
better?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What I'm doing right now is not by choice. It's my purpose. This is what I was meant to do. This is my God given purpose. I was meant to help other men. If I look throughout my life, my dad left, I was 14. I saw him a handful of time by the time he died when I was 29.
Hmm.
The last time I saw my father, I think I was 21 years. No, I was 19 years old. Last time I spoke to him, I was 21 and he died. I was about 29. So everything that I've done, I've accomplished because of a lack of fatherhood, because there was no masculine men. I've always been chasing and looking for those very masculine men throughout my life. And unconsciously, I found them. Like, if you want to call it God, you want to call it fate, call it however you want. But I don't believe in coincidences.
Mm.
Zero. I don't believe, and everything happens for a reason. The only reason people call it a coincidence is that they've never put the time into trying to understand what's going on. They
Mm.
don't sit down and review what happened and try to understand why was that person put on my path or why did that happen to me. They don't put the unconscious conscious. Like, they
Mm.
don't take the time to reflect on it. And you know, when you wish for things, they tend to happen for you. They're
Right.
not, you have to do the work. Of course, nothing's going to happen when you're sitting your ass on the couch watching Netflix,
Right.
except your life will be wasted. But the point is that when you start working towards something, people tend to show up on your path. They
Mm.
tend to show up and be there. And it's just up to you to recognize them in the moment. Because What's the difference between somebody that's successful and somebody that isn't? Is the simple fact that they saw something happening as it was happening. How many regrets do people have to say, oh man, I wish I did that 10 years ago. I
Right.
wish I would have thought about that.
Mm,
But if
yeah.
they were aware, if they were paying attention, they would
Right.
have recognized that there was an opportunity. Whatever that opportunity is, the opportunity was there and you could have taken it if you saw it coming. It always
Right.
starts there, right?
Right. Or how many people that have on their deathbed have wished that
Mhm.
they would have just did something regardless of how it panned out.
The
Just
number one
taking that
regret
step.
of the dying is to live a life that others expected of them and not the life they wanted to live.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, so many people, you see it, they're so like just men, they're scared to take that leap into
Mhm.
the
Yep,
unknown.
100%.
But it's like at the same time, when we all die, what do you have to show for it? You
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 know,
worked a beautiful 9 to 5 job till you hit retirement, and then what? And nobody.
I you're hold on, man. That you're saying something. There's a quote I posted yesterday. I can't remember, but it did exactly what you're saying. So we're hold on.
Mhm.
The quote was saying, there we go. The fear of death follows from fear of life. A man who lives his life fully is prepared to die at any time.
Mm, love that.
And it's true. If you're scared of dying, you will never live
Yes,
because you're scared of dying.
right. I would also say if you're scared of any bad consequences
Mhm.
to whatever choice you make, you're
Yep.
not living either.
No, no, because you're too worried about the consequences instead of being worried to live.
Right. Now, you've written a book, Purpose: How Following Your Personal Legend is the answer for your midlife crisis.
Yeah, man.
Purpose is like such a huge thing that everybody lacks, everybody's trying to find, everybody,
Mhm.
wishes they had.
Yep.
What's your definition on how somebody discovers their purpose?
You know, this is a great question, but it is a hard question for most people. The answer is hard for most people because again, they don't have the balls to do what they're supposed to be doing. They're not ready to sacrifice what needs to get sacrificed in order to get there. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is knowing yourself, and it's all, it starts there. Like I have a coaching program that is designed just to help men find purpose, and it always stems from the first step is always the same. It is to get to know who you've become, to understand what you are, not what your job is, not what your title is, but who you are as an individual. What are the skills that you possess that you've acquired over the years? What are you good at? Not
Mm,
necessarily what you're passionate of, but remove the emotional aspect of it and just look at yourself for what you are. Look at yourself in the mirror and look, okay, what are my natural abilities? Some people are athletic. So
yeah.
some people should be directed in sports. Some people should be taught to discipline in order to practice every day, to eat well, not to go drinking, not to party, because they have natural gifts that's been given to them by God. You're born with athletic skills. I have them. It's not something I can develop them, but it's not something it was given to me.
Right.
Some people are intellectuals, some people are artists. Whatever it is, we have natural skills that were given to us from a young age, but most of us never developed them. We're
Mm,
fully aware. That's why it all comes back to when you were a child. What you did naturally as a child will have very strong tendencies to what your natural skills are, because a child doesn't question, they just do.
right.
You're not shamed at that age. You're not ashamed of what you are. If you want to do something, you guess what? You just do it. And
Mhm.
this is why getting to know, I'm a big fan of meditation. I've been meditating for 10 or 12 years now. And you know, I found my purpose, and this is the part that people are not ready to do. You need to spend time by yourself. You need to distract in order to find out who you are. Remove all the distractions that you have around you.
Mm,
And I found my purpose through spending 1.5 years alone by myself in the woods. Like
really?
before, over the past 4 years, I haven't lived a regular life in more than 4 years now. in 2020, when we all know what happened back in March 2020, as a Canadian, I was capable. I was a sales engineer back then. So for 12 years, I wore a suit and I was in front of customers day in, day out, selling very high-end products. And back in March 2020, I had the opportunity to work remotely. I didn't have to be in the office anymore.
Mhm.
But back then, you weren't allowed to interact with people that were outside of your bubble, as they call them. Like the restrictions in Canada were really stiff.
Right.
But I had an investment house in the middle of nowhere, like log house, top of a mountain, middle of the woods, and I was always renting it out on Airbnb. I wasn't going there. It's just a property to make money. But I'm like, why am I in the city anymore? I live alone. I don't have anybody with me. I have my two dogs. I'm like, why the hell am I in? Why am I staying here? So I
Mhm.
got rid of my place in the city. I moved to the middle of nowhere. So for a year and a half, I lived literally, the closest grocery store was 25 minutes away in a small town of probably 5,000 people.
Mhm.
And I was about an hour away or an hour and a half away from the closest real grocery store or real Walmart, for example. So I was very far away from where people live, but I spent so much time by myself with no distractions
Mhm.
that it allowed me to reflect on what I am, that voice inside of you. You know, they say you have two voices inside of you. You have the one that's bringing you down all the time, that's always talking, is your fears talking. And then you have your real voice, the voice that's connected to God, the voice that is telling you what you are in a
Mm.
good way. But unfortunately, until you remove that fear voice, until you can remove or dial down the one that's telling you what you cannot do, you'll never hear your own voice that's been trying to speak to you your whole life. So remove all the distraction, start meditating. And that's what I did. I just continued meditating. I removed the distractions. I wasn't around people that were naysayers anymore. And I just reflected on what I was, not my job, because I realized back then that everything I did was about my job. And this
Mhm.
is one of the biggest things. We all do this now. You ask somebody, we don't even ask people, who are you anymore? We ask them what they do, like their job
Right.
defines them.
Right.
And for some people, their job does define them. And it's okay because this is what they were meant to do.
Mhm.
But for probably 99% of people, their jobs is just something they do to make money to support their family. That's it. Like it's not what they're supposed to be doing, but they are in a situation that that's what they're doing.
Mm.
And this
Yeah.
is the first step, is just to spend time. I would recommend anybody out there, if they really want to figure out who they really are and what their purpose are, the next vacation you take a week or two by yourself, rent a cabin somewhere in the middle of nowhere, away from your wife, away from your kids, away from your job, away from any type of interaction. Leave your phone at a home and bring a bunch of books that you should have read a long time ago,
Mm.
and just spend time by yourself. If you have a dog, bring the dog with you, because to me, dogs are, if you want to live, if you want to live to learn, if you want to learn to live a conscious life, have a dog. Dogs don't care about yesterday. They don't care about tomorrow. They care about, there's those memes on Facebook that's the guy sitting down with his dog and they have bubbles showing what they're thinking. The guy has a million things. The dog has an image of exactly what he's seeing. That's
Right.
why I love dogs. I'm a big fan of dogs, and that's why, because my dog don't care.
Yeah.
My German Shepherd, I work outside on my laptop 4 or 5 hours a day. She's sitting right next to me and she don't care. All she
Yeah.
cares about is that she's close to me and that she's enjoying. That's it. All that
Mm.
matters. But that's what I suggest to people. Start there. Spend time by yourself. And I'm not saying, oh, spend an hour by yourself at night. No. Take 2 weeks off. Take a week off. Take 2 weeks off. Whatever you're capable of taking, rent a cabin in the really middle of nowhere and go there. If you have a dog, great, go there. But no friends, please, no alcohol, no drugs. Really, don't
Right.
try to tame your boredness. The whole point is for you to be bored to a point where you have to start talking to yourself. We all talk to ourselves, but we normally down talk to ourselves. But instead, give you the opportunity to just reflect.
So
Take a journal, write down whatever comes to mind. Just spend time by yourself.
it's almost like you're accessing, another realm to answers that you've never had before, or they've been there, you've never
They,
listened.
you know, Buddha spent, if you look at mythology or if you look at religion, I don't think it's mythology, but people call it mythology. But if you look at Buddhism, Buddha spent 40 days and 40 nights and 40 nights in the wilderness where he met the devil, where he interacted with an evil force. There's no evil force, it's you. At the end of the day, all he did is spend so much time alone that his conscious and his unconscious mind started talking to each other. They finally were paying attention to each other. You look at the Bible, Jesus Christ spent also 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness where he was tempted by the devil. Once again, is there a devil or not? If you need to put a face on the devil and say that it's a little red guy with horns and a fork, all the best to you. But at the end of the day, it's you. You are as good as you are evil. And you're more evil if you don't know how to be good, because being evil is easy. It takes no talent at all. Just be an asshole and start caring about yourself alone. You're evil. But the point is that you need to spend time by yourself. You need
Mm.
to.
Now, let me ask you a question. You think maybe that's why you always hear people like, I gotta be alone. I gotta be alone. We're built to have alone time so we can get the answers that we seek.
Unfortunately, no. It's not and let me explain why I say
Mhm.
no. I understand what you're saying, but you have two types of people out there. You have introverts and you have extroverts, right? If you look at my best friend, we are the same. If you have you ever done a 16 personality test, like the personality test, to see what type of individual you are, what type of people you should have around you, how do you get information, how do you speak to people? Have you ever done that?
I've done a personality test, but probably not that extent to 16 to where I need who I should have around me, who I
Oh
shouldn't.
yes. So I would suggest just Google 16 personalities.
I'm doing that
They
right
have a
now.
they have a free test. You can just go get it. It'll probably take you like book an hour of your time in order to do it properly and do it in a way. The only thing I suggest is that you do it in a way where you're not answering the questions as to what you wish you would do. Be
Right.
honest and answer. If there's a question, don't answer it as, oh, I wish I would be that. No, no, no. Be honest, be truthful, and answer the question how you would act in that specific situation. And you know, the two main categories, there's four categories, and but the two main ones are when it comes down to introvert and extrovert, and all it means is how you recharge your batteries. In a if you are tired,
Really?
if you are tired, like right now, let's say you're exhausted,
Hmm.
how do you recharge your batteries? Do you want to spend time by yourself, away from everybody, where you can relax, recharge? Or would you go out? Are you more the type of person that when they're exhausted, they want to be around people? They want to recharge their batteries by being around people. That makes you an extrovert. If you are an introvert, you want to be alone. Like my best friend and I, out of the four, so there's four personality traits. We are the same on the last three personality traits. The big difference between him and I, he's an introvert and I'm an extrovert. That's the main difference, but it's a world of difference because I'm the life of the party. If I show up somewhere, I guarantee you by the end of the night, I've met 20 people, I've met a bunch of people, I formed a group where we're having conversations about stuff. My friend is more laid back, he sits back and he'll be part of that group, but he's listening to what people are saying, right? But
Mm.
when it comes to all the rest, we're exactly the same. But just the fact that he needs to spend time alone to relax, and I like to go out. But I like that you asked that question, and the reason is that when I moved to the woods, one of the main reason I moved there is because as an extrovert, the hardest thing for an extrovert that is not conscious of himself is to spend time by himself. This is torture. To an extrovert, spending time by himself is torture the same way as telling an introvert that I want you to go to that party and be the life of the party. It is not natural. This is not how we are. But if you are conscious of the type of individual that you are, you can modify it. I went from dreading being alone to having my days organized from 4 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And it was always filled with, I was at the gym, I was at work, I was teaching martial art, I was always doing something. I was always doing something. To now, I spend probably 3 or 4 hours a day alone sitting outside with my dog on my laptop working. But my girlfriend's inside the RV and I'm outside. I do it on purpose to spend time by myself in nature.
Hmm.
So it is something that you can learn, and it is one of the best thing that you can do is to learn how to spend time by yourself. This is
Oh,
one of the most powerful thing you can do.
dude, that's so funny that you say that, because I've always been the type of person that I feel like I need alone time, so
Yep.
I'll be like, I'll go sitting alone. Now I could do like an hour or two, fine. But then I start like, all right, I got to start being around people again. I got to start having a conversation.
So chances are you're not a pure extrovert. You're probably similar to me. I'm a 60-40. If you look at the they're going to ask you questions, they rate you on 100, right? And the highest that you are between an introvert and an extrovert, that's normally what you are. But I'm sitting somewhere at like a 60-40. I'm
Mm,
60% extrovert and 40% introvert. So for me to spend time by myself is by my nature too, just not as much as being around people. So you're probably very similar to that in that way.
gotcha. Makes sense. Um,
But all to say that this is where it starts. Like everything we've been speaking about for probably the last 20 minutes is the first step. Like the 4-step program that I have for the men that I help all starts there. But this is the hardest part. This is the hardest part, is to really be honest with who you are,
mm,
what you are, especially. Like
mm,
not, people ask me "Hi, so who are you or what are you?" My answer is always simple. I'm an eternal student, is what I am. At the
mm.
end of the day, I've been doing research since I'm 14 years old. To this today, I probably spent 2 hours this morning just reading the news, doing research, writing. I do it naturally. This is what I am, is a researcher. I'm a sucker for, I am one of those guys that knows about everything, that have random facts for you all the time. Out of the blue, makes no sense. I'm like, did you know that this is the way it works? That's me. I'm a jack of all trade, right? But this is conscience. This is consciously. I practice this because I know this is what I do.
But
This is just what I do.
it sounds like it's just something that it fulfills you. Like I have to. It's like, why does why does gravity act the way it does? It just does. It's-
You know, it goes further than that because I consciously do it because, look at society today. We've become over specialized in everything.
mm,
Everybody wants to be specialized in something. Everybody wants to be called an expert in a specific subject.
mm,
But what people don't realize is that when you treat every piece of information or every subject as a silo, you forget that silos don't speak with each other. Like if you imagine that you have a bunch of silos, look at an empty field, look at a football field and put silos everywhere. And those are all the subjects that exists in the world. And we have a tendency to over specialize in everything. So when you're an expert or a specialist, the definition is simple, is just to say that you know a lot about that specific subject. You are very well versed in that subject. But when you spend your time obsessing about one subject and one subject alone, you forget all the other subjects that are out there that not only are interconnected with your subject, but you forget that everything out there is connected.
mm.
Everything out there is connected. There's a journalist. I don't know if you know the guy called Graham Hancock. Do you know the
Yep.
writer?
Yep.
So
But
I've read multiple of his books. I love this guy.
yes.
He's not a specialist in anything. He's a writer. That's his specialty. But what he does extremely well, and he inspired me 4 or 5 years ago when I was reading one of his book, and he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast multiple times, and he was explaining how there he deals with specialists all the time, and the specialists are always telling him that he's wrong, that his
Yeah.
theories are wrong.
Right.
Why? Because they cannot see further than their own nose. All they see is their specialty, but they don't realize that there's a multitude of events that's transpired through history at the same time as the history specialty that you're studying. You're
Mm.
not everything. There's so many things that had happened over the years in the same time as what you specialize in, but because you're so specialized, you're not looking outside your subject. So I am a jack of all trade. I like to step back and look, okay, what is this? How do you get a man to start having courage?
That's a
How do
great
you get it?
question.
One of the biggest questions that I hear all the time is, how does somebody build discipline?
Hmm.
Because if you can possess a skill that will change your life, it's courage and discipline. If you're capable of having both, you're unstoppable. There is nothing that you cannot accomplish if you have a set of balls and yet you're dedicated. Nothing you
Mm.
can do. But how do you do it? How do you accomplish? How do you accomplish discipline?
That is
Normally, accountability. You have somebody holding you responsible. Somebody like me will be in the back of your head saying, "Hey, motherfucker, what are you doing?
right.
Why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now? I don't want to hear your excuse. Shut the hell up. Do your job."
Hmm.
How did I build discipline if I didn't have a father? By going to the gym,
Mm.
by changing my body, by going from a 145-pound skinny guy to weighing 200 pounds. This is how I change. This is how I build discipline. By you know what? Went to the gym. I start seeing changes. I continued going to the gym because now it becomes almost an addiction.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym right now. Like I'm at the gym recording this right now. So
Yeah.
guess what I'm doing after we're done recording? I'm hitting the gym. And I'm 41 years old. I spent more time in the gym than not. I've been
Hmm.
at the gym for 21 years now. So, but this is where my discipline starts from. By
Mm.
going to the gym and just saying, you know what? I became addicted to the way my body started looking. I started realizing that I have a real impact on my physique. There is something that is in my control and I can
Hmm.
see it in the mirror. I
Mm.
can see the changes and there's no doubts because they're right there in the mirror.
Right.
But one thing I didn't realize back then is by building my body, by building the discipline, by starting to treat my body with respect, not treating my body like a dumpster, treating it with the respect that it deserves, that my body is a machine. But
Hmm.
guess what is connected to my body? My mind. And if I treat my machine like garbage, do you honestly believe that that your mind can operate to a level that it's supposed to be operating at? Of course not. But this is all where it starts. It starts with your physique. Change your physique. Learn how to modify your body to what you want it to look like. And by the time you start achieving that, you'll realize that you've built power over your mind.
Hmm.
And this is where you can start playing with your mind and start to understand how you actually work, how you actually are. And before you know it, you're full of discipline.
Yeah.
Before you know it, that discipline is everywhere.
Hmm.
And then you can start going after courage. You can tell yourself, you know what? I built courage by stepping in a ring. I was
Mm.
bullied as a teenager and I was a victim. I was a coward. I was a victim. But what
Mm.
are the two choices that you have when you're a victim and you're a coward? Continue to be a coward or learn how to defend yourself. Those are
Mm.
your two choices. There's nothing else.
Mm.
So I chose to defend myself. I chose to learn. Next thing I know, my coach was putting me into a ring. I never wanted to fight. I had no interest in fighting. But my coach saw something I didn't, so I fought. And then you know what you realize? Oh shit, I'm not made out of glass. I'm a lot harder to break than I thought. Holy shit, I actually had the balls to step in the ring with somebody that wanted to hurt me.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
oh shit, not only am I disciplined because I'm going to the gym 5 to 10 times a week between martial art and hitting the gym to push weights, but now I went against my fear of getting beat up and I actually did something with courage.
Right. Right. Definitely. For sure. Training is like step zero. Like anything, you got to
Yep,
start training. You got to start
100%,
training.
100%,
Like,
100%. It's a
you know,
non-nego. I don't have kids yet, but my girlfriend and I are trying on it, are working on this, and this is one thing that is non-negotiable. My kids will be fit, my kids will eat well, and my kids will do martial arts. Whatever they
mm,
do after they're 18 or after they leave my house, I don't care. But
mm,
until that day, man or woman, daughter or boy, you will be fit.
Mm,
This is a must. It's non-negotiable. There's no negotiation. No
mm.
negotiation.
Yeah, just want to touch on that real quick. Because I have a daughter. I have sole custody of her.
Good for you.
Being a masculine man, like it automatically creates that dynamic in your offspring. Like she's naturally inner feminine
Of course
because
she
she
is.
doesn't have to worry about me not being in my masculine.
Nope. Of
And it's
course.
a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And I tell people all the time, especially fathers, is it's not really, it's about you, but it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to do what you got to do to make sure that you show up beautiful for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, it affects them. You could say anything you want, but that's just the truth. It's the reality of it.
The statistics are there to prove it.
Yes, all the
If you look
time.
at the statistic, only about 10% of kids that don't live with their two parents are raised solely by men. So you're in the less of the 10% of the population that are raising kids by themselves that are men. But if you look at the statistics, it's incredible. Girls and boys that are raised by single father do better in school. They do
Mhm.
better managing their emotion. They're not as homeless. They don't have problems with addiction. It's incredible. But if you compare a girl or a boy that is raised by a single woman compared to a single man, the kids will outachieve the kids that are born that are raised by single women. And this doesn't go against women.
Right.
It is just that men and women have different roles when it comes to family, how they discipline. Like discipline, where does it come from? Men. This is
Yeah.
something that's naturally men.
Right.
And you know, you have conversation with your wife, your girlfriend, and this is something my girlfriend and I spoke about multiple times, but I don't care about your feelings. There are things like martial art that you're going to do, and I don't care what you think.
Right.
Mothers will be more, oh, yeah, but they don't feel like doing it. But I don't care.
Right.
This is not an option.
Right.
I care more about you being a protector when you're older, or you as a woman learning how to defend yourself than I care about your feelings. At this
Right.
point, I'm your father. I'm your parent. You're going to shut the hell up and you're going to do what I'm telling you to do because this matters more. You're a child. You don't know. Right now
Right.
is my job to tell you.
Right. And when you say that, and when like you're a father, this is why, you can tell why the statistics, you
Mhm,
get the numbers as they are.
mhm.
Just because it's simple. I could tell you so many times, when my daughter's come like emotions, doesn't want to do something. And it's not, you don't have to be an asshole saying it. It's like you teach her, like it's funny. You're like, baby, life is funny. This is the way life works. Okay. You say you don't want to do something, but the only thing you have in this life is your word. If you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. It's because it's not about you. It's about we all need other people in this life. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do to the other people, they're not going to trust you and the word's going to get around. And it's not going to help you in life. And with the emotions, no, I don't feel like doing it. We all feel like that. But if I didn't feel like getting up today and feeding you, and I just went with my emotions, you wouldn't eat.
It's a good point, eh? That's a good
Yeah.
way to put
Like,
it.
and that's what's great about men too, is they're able to convey these messages that make them laugh, that are funny, but they
Mhm.
get the point. It's just amazing.
And as much as I spend my time speaking about masculinity, about speaking about boys, speaking about fatherhood, one of the things that is also greatly needed is for little girls to have fathers.
Mm,
Years ago, my best friend told me something, and it's always stuck into my head. And I've said it 100 times, if it's not 1,000 times now. Is as a man, if you go when you go on a first date with a woman, the first question when you sit down that you should ask is for her to give you or to tell you her most fond memory of her father. And her
mm,
reaction will tell you everything you need to know. If that woman starts becoming aggressive, starts swearing, start calling him names, pay the bill and get out of there. Avoid the trouble. That woman, no, you know what? There's bad fathers out there. There's assholes everywhere. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can't change your past, but you can't change your view of that past. If you
Mm,
let that past still dictate your future, you have not done the work that you're supposed to do in order to move forward. And that
mm,
woman has not. And if you understand that the first masculine love of a woman comes from the father, is her father. Who is the first
mm,
male that they love? Their father. So imagine that the first man that they're supposed to love, they don't like him or they hate him. What does it say about a relationship? You think you have any chance, or you're stepping into a situation where it's a lose-lose situation. You cannot win that. On the other hand, if that girl starts getting emotional, she cries, she's just like, oh, we did this that day. He brought me to that place, and she's all teared up. Stay. She's worth learning. She might not be your type of woman. Maybe at the end of the day, she's not your type, but she's worth exploring. She's worth
mm.
speaking to, because that woman either had a great father, that means that her view of a man are extraordinary, or she made peace with the lack of her father, the shortcomings of her father, to a point where she's able to see the good amongst the bad. That means no matter what, she did the work. And
Yes.
this is what I was saying, at the beginning, we're talking about choosing a partner with aligned values. This is one of the biggest ones.
No,
This is
100%, 100%.
And the beauty about you raising your daughter the way you are establishing that your daughter will never be with assholes. That that expression, oh, she has daddy issues. It ain't a joke. This is literally what it means. We made a mockery of it, as in, oh, I want a woman with daddy issues. That means her confidence is shot. That means that I can talk to her like I'm a jerk, and she'll respond to that. That's never going to be the problem of your daughter.
Yeah, it's, it is funny. I mean, because if you've spent any time in any of these men's communities, some of you seem like you just treat her like a jerk and she'll love you for that.
Oh
Sure,
man.
sure, but
Oh,
dude, that's not gonna, nothing genuine's ever gonna come out of that. Nothing. There's gonna be no real connection, no real bond. Or how about whenever like you're in a tough position and you just need to like talk about something or someone input, that chick's gonna run away because they're like, oh, you're too soft now. Like, oh, bye bye. When it could have been something very important that needed to be discussed.
it's even worse than that. All those shit, how do you call that movement? I cannot remember what they're called. They started, man, almost 20 years ago. I think the first book was written on how to play with the psyche
Oh,
of women.
oh, the pickup artist. Yes,
Pickup artists, thank
yeah,
you. POA, yeah. Pickup PUA. Yeah,
yep,
PUAs. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So if you use PUA tactics on women, you're a fucking asshole. Like, you're a jerk. Like, not only are you're literally using psychology or NLP to mess with people's mind.
Mm,
I was reading this book called the Man Maker Project. It's written by a guy called Chris Bruno.
mm,
It's If you're not Christian, it might not talk to you because he does a lot of reference to the Bible, but the book was given to me by a guy I met in Colorado, and one of the things that he mentions in there, which I absolutely love the way he said it, is always look at women as a human being and not an object of your sexual desires.
mm,
If you start looking at women for not what they can bring you sexually, but as a human being that has emotion, that is her own person, you start questioning yourself. And I'm 41 years old, man. I never thought about it this way until I finished that book last week.
mm.
And now every time, like, I'll be at the gym, I see a beautiful woman wearing super short everything. Now your mind goes there right
Of
away, right? You're
course,
just
like you
like
cannot
you,
be a man and that not happen to you.
but automatically you start imagining you're naked, bent over, and what you would
Right,
do to her. This is where our mind goes. I
right,
don't care that you're married, you might not admit it to your wife, but deep down that's what you're thinking.
right.
But then, as I've been saying, if you spend a lot of time looking at yourself in the mirror, you notice your patterns. You notice what you do instinctively. And then you start realizing, you're like, oh shit, why do I do that? And this I learned last week. Like those words, I'm like, man, now every time I've looked over the past week, I still see beautiful. I saw one earlier, just as I was refilling my bottle earlier. There's one that was working out, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, bro, don't do it. She
Yeah.
doesn't deserve that. However she is, she doesn't deserve me mentally treating her that way. And
Mm,
this is not only bad energy that I'm putting out there, but it ties up to what we were saying right at the beginning, that men need to control their sexual urges. And this is a sexual urge.
mm,
Me going there automatically is a lack of control that I have over my emotions and over my sexual urge.
mm,
See
It
how
is.
everything's intertwined? When you
Mm,
start looking, stepping back and just looking at, I'm a big fan of psychology. I'm a massive fan of psychology. And once you start under, I don't remember who said this, but if you somebody that is intelligent will get to know people. Somebody that is wise will know themselves. And you can take it even further. If we take for granted that we're all interconnected, that everything in this universe started with the same matter and ended up to what we are today, that means that we are all interconnected. If you
yeah.
get to know yourself, you get to know the universe.
Mm, I love that.
But it's hard to know yourself, though. It's hard to admit that you're flawed. It's hard to admit that you're a jerk. It's hard to admit that you've hurt people. It's hard to admit that maybe you're selfish. Maybe you should do more. Maybe you blame everybody else for your problem. But
Yeah, well, I think
it's
that's where the challenge and the beauty lies, is like if none of us were fucked up, then there would be no conquest to have in ourselves, like to be
uh-huh,
able to make great things of the world,
uh-huh.
have great insight, have great wisdom to help people. There would be no meaning, there would be no purpose.
You know, the biggest purpose, if you look at a man, what is, I call them the five virtues of a man. There's five virtues that a man should possess. One of them, in my opinion, is not achievable, but you should always try to work to achieve it. But I don't think, at least I'll speak for me, it's not achievable. I don't think I'll ever achieve it. But a man is supposed to be courageous. First and foremost, he needs to have courage. Without courage, nothing's possible. Then he needs to understand that he is a protector. Men are meant to protect
Mm,
families, societies, communities, whatever it is. We are the first and the last line of defense for everything. We're meant to be providers. If you look at society today, feminists forgot, and a lot of men forget this, but men build this society. Men work behind the scene to maintain it. Men do jobs they hate for 40 years just so that they can provide a better life to their children. This is what men do.
yeah.
We need to be courageous. We need to know how to defend ourselves, our families, and to become protectors. We need to make money in order to provide. We need to provide a house that's considered a safe space. I hate the word safe space, but there's only one place that it exists, and a man should be able to create that for his children. Once you leave that front door, safe spaces are not real.
Right.
But inside that house, you should give an environment where your kids can evolve, can grow,
Mm,
that is safe for their development. Because in a survival mode, you never learn because you're too busy surviving. So if you're always fighting to stay alive, you'll never learn. All you're going to do is survive. So you
right.
need to give that area, that space to your children, to your wife, to your family, where they can develop. But you also need to develop temperance. This is the hardest one. I don't think, to me, I'll never be possible. Just I get better every day. I get better, but I have a very hot temper. I
Mm,
always have. It's getting better. Sorry, my temper is always there. I'm a lot better at hiding it and not letting it control me. But deep down, I want to murder people every day.
yeah.
Every day, there's at least one person I'm going to meet that I would love to dig a hole for them.
Yeah. I don't, as most people never want to admit this. Everybody, like especially every dude has it in them or just thinks about it like, dude, I just want to punch that motherfucker in the face.
Yeah.
Like, it could be like just waking up. Nobody had to do anything. They just looked at you a certain way. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to fucking punch him.
Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time, that a man needs to be vicious. A man needs to have something in him that is, I call it the monster. Like I always imagined it as in like, I'm a big fan of dogs. So I like big muscular dogs. I always imagine like 140-pound American bulldog with the spiked collar. That's my
Right.
monster, but he's on a leash. He's always pinned down.
Right. And
And
it's
a
there.
hopefully I never have to use him.
Right. Nobody wants to, but it's there for a
No.
reason. Like
Yeah.
you take all this civilization away from us, bring us back to, it's like,
Yep.
yeah, you'll soon quickly realize why we are the way we are.
100%. I agree with you 100%. It's meant to be there. There's a reason it's there, and it is up to you to control it. That's why temperance is so important. This is why my fourth virtue of a good man is to be tempered.
Mhm.
Because if you let your emotions control you or your monster control you, you are easily controllable. That means that I can fuck with you whenever I want. If you let your emotion drive you, that means I can simply go up to you and start saying the things that I would do to your wife.
Right.
And you lose your shit, bro,
Right.
you're so easily controlled.
Right.
That means that anybody out there can control you, can make you make mistakes. And one day, who knows, you'll make one single mistake that's going to end up you in jail. You'll end up killing somebody. You'll end up doing something so stupid that you'll never be able to forgive yourself just
Right.
because you lack temperance, just because you did not have control over yourself.
Right. And how many times do you see that in sports? How many times someone's egged somebody on just to get somebody to mess up to cost their team? That's all the time. Psychological
And,
warfare.
and it happens all the time. It
Yeah.
happens in war. It
Mhm.
happens in sports. It happens in traffic. How many times have people giving me the finger for something that they did?
Yeah.
Does it, you know, for years, I have followed people back home because I've been fighting for a long time. Like I fought for years. I know how to fuck somebody up.
Mm.
And but if you have the tools to hurt people, but you have no control over it, that is a very dangerous person right there. You know how many people have given me the finger and I ended up parking in a way that they can't leave, follow them home, step out of my car at a red light, step out of my car at a store. How many times have I done that? How
Mm.
stupid of me was it? I had a guy, you know, what made me realize how stupid I was is I would be consumed by that moment for hours after it happened. It would be in my mind and I would replay it and replay it and replay it and just like, what the things that I could have done to that guy. That guy deserved me hurting him.
Mm.
And you know what? Chances are that guy never thought about me again after that.
Oh, I
He
bet.
he he gave me the finger and he went on his day. You know, there's a rap song I heard years and years ago. I can't even tell you who
Can
it
you give me
is,
one
but
second? One
yeah,
second.
man. Yep.
Sorry. 1 second.